Susan, I'm on my phone and we'll be over there in just a moment.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Hello, hello.
Hey. We have you on the screen 3 times.
Yes. I'm leaving on my phone. There we go. And do you want to pause the recording until we get started?
Yeah, let me do that. I hope everybody gets their cameras on. I'm so excited to be together again. Can you all believe it's been a year almost since we were together face to face? Both my MMA group and my River Ridge group and SI SHRM. I think we all stopped in March. It's just been crazy to think that it's been a year. I know in some ways Zoom is easier and less time consuming getting on this, from work, but I really miss the networking, and I know you guys do too. So hopefully we'll be able to get back maybe together in person in the fall. We'll shoot for the summer and hope for the fall. I don't know, something like that. I know all you all know Talus Group, of course. Talus Group and SI SHRM is hosting this, and Kara. And Talus Group, of course, is a boutique recruiting firm. So we work with a lot of manufacturing companies. Really, most of our clients are manufacturing, helping them find engineers and manufacturing managers and accounting and HR and so sales, technical engineers. And I want to thank SI SHRM so much because they certified today's event. And so if you are SHRM or HRCI certified, we do have the credits for that today for 1.5 credits. And I will put those numbers up at the end of the presentation so you can mark those down and get credit for this. So thank you, SI SHRM. And if you guys are not a part of SI SHRM, Kara can tell you as well, it is a great organization. I've been with them since 2007, and they will keep you up to date on the legal issues and the HR issues, and which has been so needed this year with COVID. So check them out, sishrm.org. I know you went there to register, so just jump back there if you want any information about them, or reach out to me and I'll give you some more information. So as I've been trying to do all year, I've got one more person that I want to connect you with so that you might be able to find some creative ways to get talent, and that is Nancy Heinrich. And she's going to speak to us just for a couple minutes before Kara starts. And she's a special guest today. She is the Youth Vocational Rehab Counselor for Indiana Family and Social Services that covers about 9 counties. So she has access to high school students that are looking to get in potentially into manufacturing companies. They may have some disability, and she might have also people that graduated from high school that may have a disability that are looking to get in manufacturing. And I think she may need your help in helping these kids figure out what it's like to work in manufacturing. So Nancy, are you ready to take over? I will stop share. And Nancy, you just click share screen at the bottom and pull up your PowerPoint, and that should work. Are you with me?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you. We see Florida background, but we don't see your face.
Yeah. Well, let's see.
Do you want me to turn your slides on?
That would be great.
Okay. All right, let's see if I can get that done for you. Okay, should be seeing it now.
Okay.
There. Can you see the whole thing, everybody? Anybody? Kara, do you see the right full thing? Let me just make sure I've got the right screen on here.
Yep, we could see your email pulling it up.
Okay, there you go.
Here it comes. There it is.
Okay, Nancy.
So thank you for the introduction, and thank you for giving me a couple of minutes to speak to your group. It's a pleasure to be here. So as Susan said, I work for vocational rehabilitation out of the Clarksville office that covers Clark and Floyd counties. And so if you want to go to the next slide, I wanted to, so the program that I work with every day is the Pre-Employment Transition Services Program in the state of Indiana. So this program was established in 2014 by President Obama. And the key feature is it took the emphasis off of just working with adults who have disabilities and said, we need to start focusing on our youth in this country who have some kind of disability so that we can help them make that bridge from school to employment and to be successful in employment. So what the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act did was it said 15% of all federal funds for vocational rehabilitation will now be devoted to youth. In Indiana, that's defined as youth between the ages of 14 and 22. And they have to be in school. So it's students between 14 and 22 who are in school. So and who have a documented disability. So in Indiana, we target kids for pre-ETs who have an individualized education plan, an IEP, or a 504 plan, which just means that they have some sort of documented disability and they may need an accommodation in order to be successful in education. So pre-ETs is just coming in with these kids while they're still in school and giving them some opportunities to learn about employment opportunities so that when they finish high school, they have a better definition of their path either towards post-secondary education and or directly to employment. So, the striking thing is when you look at the percentage of schools, the percentage of students who have a documented disability who are in our public school system, it's more than people realize sometimes. And as I always say, disabilities take all shapes and sizes, come in all shapes and sizes. And a lot of the students we work with have maybe a mild learning disability where it just takes them longer to learn a task, but once they learn it, they've got it and they're solid. We work with kids who have cerebral palsy. We work with kids who are on the autism spectrum, which unfortunately affects more boys than girls. But kids with autism, we're working with them through a program at Cummins up in Columbus and finding that these kids have spectacular talents, especially in a manufacturing industry, because they are extremely focused. If the job that they're doing is what they're interested in doing, they give it their 200%. And they get the job quickly, they're very focused, and they don't need redirecting. So I just wanted to share a few, I think it's just interesting that, the students with disabilities are in every school. And as employers, I believe just being aware that there's programs out there that can connect you with some of those students that might bring you some very valuable employees. So next slide, please.
There you go. Sorry.
Right. So the pre-ETS program includes 5 core services. And this is what our pre-ETS career coaches provide to students to make them better prepared for the workforce. And the one area that I really wanted to just talk about this morning briefly, or this afternoon briefly, is the work-based learning opportunities. And because this is where the kids are given a real hands-on opportunity to see what it's like in an employer's workplace, to see if it's the kind of work that they want to do. And so this can take the form of just informational interviews with somebody who works there. It can take the form of doing a workplace tour, which right now would probably be more of a virtual tour, but it's totally doable because a lot of the services we're providing to students are either at school, or if they're on virtual education, non-traditional education, then they're meeting with their career coach like on a Zoom call like this, and where the kids are at home and the career coach is in their home or their office. And then they're engaging kids in learning about what's it like to work at this place, or what's it like to work at that place. Or if you wanted to work, if you were thinking about a career in pharmacy, or in an industrial warehouse, or as a forklift operator, for example, what kind of questions would you want to ask an employer? So anyway, so that's why I thought, I didn't know if anyone was interested in this or if you were aware of this, but I think it's worth bringing it to your attention. So, some of the kids, the kids we work with in our pre-ETS program they're just like all kids. They have an interest in any kind of career. But I've noticed in my monitoring of the providers and looking at the kids and the career interests of the students that we're working with in Southern Indiana, that there's, there are some themes, that there's a strong interest in kids who are interested in working in IT. So a lot of kids who have expressed an interest in working in manufacturing in some capacity. Sometimes it's because that's what their parents do. There's a lot of kids interested in farming. There's a lot of kids, including girls, who are interested in small engine repair, small diesel mechanics, airplane mechanics, airplane maintenance. And a number of kids, of course, interested in anything to do with video games and information technology. A lot of those kids might be kids on the autism spectrum. So, if that's what they're interested in, and if you have areas within your company that involve IT or programming or, communication with your internal or external customers, there might be just a perfect student who may just so happens has a disability, but could end up being one of your more valuable employees for a number of reasons. So next slide, please.
I got you up there. I think I jumped ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I'm having let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay. So these are just a few of the benefits when employers start and continue down that path of developing a diverse and inclusive workforce. So in my experience, and before I relocated to Southern Indiana about a year and a half ago, I was running an employment program for people with disabilities through the ARC in Indian River County, Florida. And I worked with many clients who had been employed and who were the longest tenured employees at some of these facilities like hospitals or Piper Aircraft and a few other, public supermarkets and that sort of thing. Because what we have found is people, when somebody has a disability, they usually, it takes, there's a higher unemployment rate among people with disabilities. And so people who have a disability, once they become employed in a job that they love and they've learned the job, they don't call out sick. They show up for work. They're always there. And so we found that this is one of the best strategies that employees can use if they're really interested in decreasing their employee turnover and improving their retention. This is just something I thought was just of interest from some data from Walgreens that showed 30% fewer accidents and 30% lower absenteeism. And in my experience, in my anecdotal experience of working with people with disabilities in employment situations, I have found it to be perhaps even greater than that. So next slide, please. So I just wanted to leave you with a few thoughts of how an opportunity like a workplace learning opportunity might be able to bring added value to your workplaces or another workplace that you may know of. Maybe not you, but maybe somebody else. Maybe this will spark something and you'll say, oh, I know somebody else that this would really be of interest to. So, my focus is to collaborate with businesses, and so that we can start creating a more robust workforce by encouraging employers to give opportunities that might just take an hour of your time or a half an hour of your time to do an interview with a student that's interested in working in the field that you work in, so that they can come in with 10 or 15 questions and get a sense of what it's like. And so I also know that when we create those partnerships and mentorships, that we can really start opening doors up for students in a very meaningful way. It's meaningful for the student, for their family, and it's also going to be very meaningful for your workplace because, as I said, we know that they don't call out sick as often. They show up for work. They're on time, and there may be a slightly higher, longer learning curve with the job, depending on what the disability may be. But once they've learned the job, you've got a solid employee. And it's also very clear from the data in the field that when kids have an opportunity to participate in work-based learning opportunities, they have higher earnings. And that's critical for giving everybody a better quality of life. Next slide, please. So that's and then the only other thing I wanted to add is that when these kids are coming out of high school, if they apply to vocational rehabilitation for services, for supports to help them become successfully employed, and something I'm sure you all know about, but the employer, most employers, for-profit employers will qualify for the work opportunity tax credit, a federal tax credit, which can reduce your tax burden. So that's a financial incentive to also employ people who have a disability. So I thank you, Susan, for letting me have a few minutes on your agenda, and just contact me. And if feel free to send out that PowerPoint if you want.
Thank you, Nancy. And we'll put her information up in the chat feature so you can pull it down if you need it. If your organization feels like it might be a match, please reach out to her. And so now we have Kara Soletto. Most of you know Kara. We're so happy to have her here today. And she's been ready to go for 30 minutes and she's bouncing around already. So hang on to your hat. This is going to be pretty interactive. Most of you know Kara from speaking to SI SHRM and other places around the United States. And also she wrote the Millennium Mindset book, the little purple book. Over the last 8 years, she's been building her training company and has rebranded that now to Magnet Culture. It used to be Crescendo. And they have clients and staff from coast to coast, but her heart remains here in Jeffersonville, where she lives. And while she misses her time on the road traveling, she's thrilled to be able to work on local projects. So if you're not familiar with Kara's work, Workforce Magazine named her Game Changer Recruiter.com, named her Game Changer Recruiter.com, listed her in the top 10 company culture experts to watch. And she's been included in the Southern Indiana 20 under 40, as well as Business First Louisville 40 under 40. So we're excited to have her, and I know she's ready to go. So Kara, take it away.
Woo! Thanks. I think that was the fastest intro I've ever had. That was awesome. So good to see you guys. As mentioned, I'd love to see your faces today if you want to turn on your video. And we are planning on having a lot of interaction today. So if you do not have a microphone, you don't have to have video to participate. But if you want to speak to your colleagues when we do some breakout sessions in a little bit, you'll want to have at least a microphone capability. If you don't have that, down by the unmute button in the bottom corner, there's a little arrow and you can select switch to phone audio. That will give you the phone number and the instructions to get you on a phone. You can put it on speaker or whatever works for you. But really want to have you guys to participate in this discussion today, not just a presentation to watch, but it'll absolutely involve you as well. So really excited to see some of you that I haven't seen in a long time, really excited to meet those of you I've never met before. So thank you all for being here today. A couple other housekeeping items. I highly recommend side-by-side view on Zoom. So in the top right-hand corner, I think it's over there if I'm backwards, the top right-hand corner, there is a view button and you should see side-by-side gallery or side-by-side speaker. You can choose either one and that will allow you to see the PowerPoint and the faces, okay? The best part about the side-by-side view, if you've never used it, you can grab that little line that's right in the middle and move it back and forth. So if you want more PowerPoint, you can have more. If you want less PowerPoint, you can have less. So that's my favorite view in Zoom because it gives you control. All right. So if you have any questions today, Jess Ray, she's over here on my screen. Jess Ray is your moderator producer on the back end. So you can chat her any questions and she'll help you get all set up. Okay. So awesome. Awesome. Thank you guys. And it looks like Nancy just put the contact information for Nancy in there if you guys have any other questions. And I'm sure also if you happen to not be in Indiana, I'm sure that she can point you to the right folks in your area as well. So as Susan said a few minutes ago, you might be confused about Magnet Culture, our new logo here, because our company for 8 years was Crescendo Strategies. But you know what? People can't say, spell, or remember crescendo. So we decided to change it up and really look at what it is that we do, which is to attract and retain the staff you can't afford to lose. So we came up with Magnet Culture as our new brand that we just redid while we had a little bit of downtime in 2020 while I wasn't traveling so much. So really looking forward to kind of expanding this brand and just being more memorable as well. So glad to have that change going on. Awesome. I'm going to mention several things throughout the presentation today that you're going to find in the Magnet Vault. So you might want to go there now or just write it down so you can go as soon as the session's over, but that's where you're going to be able to access some of the downloadable tools that I mentioned. If you don't already have this little purple book about the millennial mindset, the digital version is in the vault as well, and lots of fun downloadables. If you have any trouble reaching that, some people's firewalls don't want them to go there for some reason, so just message me or Jess and we can get you that access. Okay, awesome. So let's talk retention. All right, let's talk retention. So if we think about kind of who owns retention and culture, if you guys would go ahead and hit that chat button down at the bottom, if you haven't found your chat bar, I'm going to have a lot of questions today, and most of them are not rhetorical. So if you could get involved with that, that's fantastic. So go ahead and find your chat bar down there, and I want you to answer to me, who owns retention? What do you think the answer to that is? At your organization or in general? Okay, everyone. Yeah, we all do. Everyone in the whole organization. Yes, good answers. Good answers. What's the problem? And HR too, I like that. So what's the problem if we have the idea that everyone owns retention? What's the problem? Okay, a lot of people think HR owns it. Yes. Then you're right, Jamie. So then no one is accountable. No one really focuses on it. I see this so often. And yes, retention is absolutely a part of everyone's job. Everyone in management in particular is supposed to be responsible for the retention on their team. But as an organization, if we don't get on the same page and have some ownership around this, that's very pinpointed, then we could get ourselves in trouble. I tend to see a sort of finger pointing and blame game that happens. So if we look at the primary players here, in most organizations, we've got the senior leaders, we've got HR, we've got management, right? Well, in the past few years, even before the pandemic hit, in the past few years, we have seen a lot of the senior leaders take notice about retention, right? It's hitting our bottom line, lots of overtime, more use of temp agencies, things like that are absolutely hitting their profitability. And so we see the senior leaders then are pointing to HR. HR, fix this, right? Holy overtime, Batman. We got to do something about these numbers. Okay. So they look at HR and then HR says, wait, I'm sorry. I'm a little busy here. I've got FMLA abuse going on, not to mention new FMLA changes they just threw at me. I got some people showing up in leggings again. I've got all kinds of things going on, drama. People are talking politics. Ain't supposed to be talking politics around here. So got to deal with all that, right? I mean, there's like so much going on. And they say, it's really not me that has the most control over this. Instead, who's really in control and, who's pushing away the great people that I just hired? The managers. There's frontline managers out there who don't know how to talk with millennials. They don't know how to manage millennials. They try to reprimand them and then the millennials quit, right? Or they don't have high EQ, for example, that emotional intelligence to be able to adjust and adapt to different styles and whatnot. Okay. So they're going to point, of course, to the management, supervisors, things like that. And then management says, wait a minute, you company have not given me the time nor the tools to be successful in this role. Are you kidding me? My plate is completely full, not to mention we are short-staffed and I'm having to get on the line, right? I'm having to do my staff's jobs, so I cannot be the best manager or stop for training and things like that, right? Anybody seeing this? Does this sound familiar to anybody? I'm seeing a lot of head nods. Okay. So lots and lots of finger pointing. And the problem is then it's a cycle. It just goes and goes and goes and whatnot. So we have got to get this on the docket for the senior leadership next meeting. Okay. Whether, I don't know if it's monthly, quarterly, annually, whatnot. We've got to be talking about a plan for retention from the top, but that goes all the way down to those most influential supervisors and managers. What is that going to look like? What kind of tools are they missing that we have to get this staffing stability that we need to create better quality, whether it's quality products you're creating or quality services, quality care you provide, right? We got to get to higher quality through that staffing stability. All right. I'm starting here with just a few common things that I see because I want to give you the language and the ammo, for lack of a better word. Like, I want to give you the language and the ammo to take to your senior leadership team and say, we got to talk about some of these things because they are not going to fix themselves, right? We have to put forth the proper effort there. So another thing that I'm seeing a lot of is a lot of assumptions about why people leave, or they're depending on the exit survey data. They're just saying, oh, well, we asked one of our concrete company clients, why are people leaving? And the manager said exactly what you hear over and over and over, which was, oh, people just want more money. They'll leave for $1 more an hour. They'll go down the street. They'll go to the next company. It's $1 more an hour. That's all it takes. Doesn't matter what we do. Or they want more consistent schedules. Now, for those of you who have indoor workers, you don't even have the added kind of chaos of weather, right? Because our concrete company, they're a ready mix concrete company, and they have to wait until Saturday to pour concrete if it's raining on Friday, right? So another added layer of scheduling craziness and chaos throughout all of this. But here's what's interesting. While the managers thought that's the only reasons that people leave, right? Those are the only reasons. That's what we hear over and over. When we went and talked to the actual truck drivers at this Ready Mix Concrete group, they said things like, there's no staff meetings. There's no communication with us. We don't know what's going on. We feel like we're the last to find everything out. Even though the company very clearly told me, oh, we communicate, we tell them all the time, right? But their perception was that they were the last to know and that nothing was communicated to them. So perhaps it wasn't the right frequency, it wasn't the right channels, who knows, right? Yes, absolutely. Lots of communication noise going on too, because they got a lot of things coming at them from different directions. All right. Another one was they hated the outdated hardware and software, especially the younger workers who, okay, by the way, millennials, I'm one of the oldest. I was born in 1981. I'll be 40 on my next birthday, but don't tell anyone, okay? I'm just telling you that the millennials, that group, we're not the youngins anymore, okay? But thank you, Matt. He says still young. That's great. I appreciate that. So the issue is if the millennials are pushing 40, we're talking about anybody under 40 has a high expectation for technology to work. Okay. And very little, tolerance for it to just churn and be outdated and things like that. So this is a real issue. If you have outdated equipment, outdated hardware, software, anything like that, that could absolutely be driving people away. And they may not tell you in the exit interview that that's why they left. They're just going to say, I got a better opportunity. Okay. I got, more money, right? $1 more an hour somewhere else. Also, lots and lots of complaints about bosses, favoritism, degrading, lack of good communication, lack of emotional intelligence, or, communication skills and things like that. We see that across all industries. And then this one was so eye-opening to me because they said the truck you get as a rookie is a joke. Now, you guys may not have a truck that the new hires get, but you can swap out that word for anything. You can swap out that word for the equipment they get, the shift they get, the type of work that they get is a joke, right? Like whatever it is that if your organization is still running things based on a hierarchy type of setting where you come in and you get, let's say, just as an example, if you're the new hire in accounting, you get the worst laptop on the team, and then the other people rotate it through, right? So like you get what's left, everybody else gets their choice. And then when a new person comes in, then you get a better laptop and you get to give them the crummy one, right? I mean, even those kind of things that I still see happening. And yet we're going to talk about next who is the flight risk, okay? And spoiler alert, it's the new hires who we don't want to give anything crummy to, right? The crummy shift, the crummy schedule, the crummy equipment, the crummy truck. We don't want to give it to them because they are the most likely to jump ship right now. So, all right. Yes. And Jamie said people lie. Yes, they do. Especially when, they don't want to burn bridges. They don't want to upset anybody. They certainly will not tell you in an exit interview. Usually, some people will, but usually they're not going to say, well, I'm leaving because of Susan, right? I'm leaving because of Susan. They'll just say, I got $1 more an hour somewhere else, right? And they're going to say something that doesn't burn that bridge. And Susan, I'm sure you're great. No one would, no one would say that, but yeah. All right. So who's the real flight risk? Let's get our chat buttons ready. You guys ready for this? So tell me in the chat, what keeps people? Why do people stay at an organization? Okay. Now I've got lots of stuff to talk about today. And I know, Ed, you've seen me speak like what, 18 times or something crazy. So there's probably a few slides here today that are going to look familiar for those of you who know me so well. But I promise I've got some new stuff to cover today, and we're going to get to some really specific strategies here in a little bit. So awesome. All right, looking through here. So culture, engagement, if we care about them, right? Yeah, empowerment, flexibility, they're more than a number. We value their time, connected. You guys have all these great answers. This is fabulous. Okay, money certainly can, there's a threshold for how much they need to make, being part of a team, recognition. Okay, now you guys put stuff in here, safety. Yep, okay, gotcha. Good managers. You guys put a lot of positive stuff of why people would stay. But I know a lot of people that stay at organizations even when this stuff isn't there, even when they don't love their manager and they don't feel super connected to, the mission and things like that. So can you put in there, why would people stay? For example, if they're unhappy, they don't even really like their job or their boss or the company, but they stay because, okay, now we're getting to the bottom of it. They have friends there, right, that they're connected to. Stability is a big one. Looking for a new job is a full-time job. Ain't that the truth? Okay, afraid to leave. Let's talk about that one for a minute. So we have this younger generation of workers with a very high risk tolerance. They part of why we see younger workers kind of jumping ship is because they believe they will fall into some kind of safety net, that it will all work out. For me growing up, my parents were very positive about, you can do anything, right? You're so special and talented and smart and all of those things that I'll tell you now, my mom was never told that stuff. So she really thought that she was very lucky to have this job. And I am lucky that they let women work. And I am lucky that they gave me training, very different mindset going on there. So we have some people, have you ever heard somebody say, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, right? That phrase means I'm not happy and I have to deal with all this around me, but at least I know how to navigate it. And it could be worse. If I changed my job, changed my company, made any changes in my life, big changes, I don't know what that looks like. And it could be worse. Well, let's take that exact same scenario and look at it from a millennial perspective that says, I am not happy. This is not working for me. The schedule, the manager, whatever, right? Culture, I don't feel appreciated, is not working. And let me tell you, the grass has got to be greener somewhere else, right? Is the exact same situation of I'm not happy and I'm thinking about changing jobs, but one person says, no, it's probably worse elsewhere. And the other says, it's gotta be better over there, So very different mindset yet again that we have coming in, not just a generational thing, but certainly leans a little bit more that way. All right. Financial security, of course, the health insurance. Sometimes people stay, my friends, because of a big old cushion of paid time off, right? Did anybody say that? I haven't looked through all of this. So yeah, they're comfortable, don't like change. There we go. Finances, benefits, absolutely. There you go. So we call this, that paid time off or a high level of seniority and say within the organization, those are golden handcuffs. Okay. That will sometimes keep people in that organization, not because they're happy, but because they don't like change. They don't want to lose their paid time off they've built up. They don't want to lose their seniority. Could be any of those things that are there. So I call it perk drunk. That is hilarious. So that's awesome, April. That's a good one. So yes, doesn't necessarily mean they're there. So that they want to stay there. So as I mentioned, it's not necessarily a generational issue. We of course say that, well, the younger folks, they're job hopping, no commitment, blah, blah, blah. If you haven't heard that speech or don't have the millennial book, it'll explain the whole loyalty thing to you. That's for a whole different session. But it's not about the generations. Okay. In fact, what I mentioned earlier is every new hire is a flight risk. I don't care if he is 25 or 45. They are the same flight risk because they do not have roots. Think of a tree, okay? They don't have roots in the organization. I know I talked to the SI SHRM about this, gosh, it's been a few years ago, but we've been talking about this for a while because we're seeing that the older workers tend to have been at organizations longer, but even if it's a millennial that's 30 years old, if they've been at the company, 7, 8, 10 years, they've got deeper roots. And we have found that the deeper the roots, meaning the longer you've been at an organization, the less likely you are to leave. Okay. So that's why we say that the new hires are the flight risk, because the trees, they are deep rooted. They can weather the storm, my friends, right? They can weather the storm, bad day, busy season, whatever. They're swaying and tilting, and they're probably not going anywhere, even if you want them to. Okay. So the other side of the workforce then is the revolving door. Whee! Okay. So the revolving door, again, not about age. It's about who's the new hire, that we're seeing a ton of that. Now, some of you, when I say revolving door, you're going to think 30, 60, 90 day. This is my revolving door of all these new hires come in and we can't keep most of them. Others of you, if maybe you're at a nonprofit group, an IT company, services type company, or you have higher wage, higher skilled workers, for example, in that situation, the revolving door might be, well, people used to stay 5, 10, 15 years here, and now I can only keep them like 2 to 3 years and they're leaving. Well, that 2 to 3 years, that's your revolving door, right? It's all relative as far as how long your company's been around, the skill level and education level you're hiring, things like that. So I want you guys to take some inventory for a moment. And I want you to think about if you had to put everybody in one of those buckets, if you had to say, this % of my workforce is trees and this % is revolving doors. Okay, I want you to think about that. You don't have to type this one in the chat bar. Okay, this is just a personal inventory for you and your team. But think about, are you 50-50 trees versus revolving doors? Are you 60-40, 70-30, something like that? Okay. All right, you got it? You guys got a ballpark on that? There we go. Okay, so here's my next question. That first one was your current ratio. Uh-oh. What happens in 5 to 10 years? What happens in 5 to 10 years? Susan says, we all retire. Yeah, and exactly. The boomers are retiring. You're exactly right. So we've got this, right now we have this hourglass of a workforce. We got the boomers, then the smaller Gen Xers, and then the gigantic millennials. Okay. We've got this hourglass, and that top tier, more than 6,000 boomers are retiring every day. And I believe that number is going up from what I hear because of COVID as well, that's even higher. It was 6,000 a day before. Yeah. Kofi's saying, yep, it's more. So yeah, there's about 10,000 boomers a day turning 65, but there's about, just before COVID, they said 6,000 retiring. So I've heard rumors that that's higher. So that's a conservative number. Okay. So what that means is you've got more and more workers in the future that will be shorter term. Doesn't have to be short term. Don't misunderstand. Okay. Doesn't have to be short term, but it will be shorter term than what we had in the past. All right. It's going to be, like I said, if you used to have people for 10 or 15 years, maybe they'll stay 5 to 7. If they used to be 5 to 10, they're probably looking at 2 to 3. If they used to be a year and a half, you're probably looking at 6 months is a win in that position. And if we don't put the right things in place. But with that said, long-term employment, friends, long-term employment, the 10, 20, 30 plus years, that's pretty much a thing of the past because it died with pensions. Okay. And some people say, oh, Kara, yeah, but we still have a pension. And my response is, no one under 40 believes you. So they do not believe that will still be there when their time comes. Okay. So not to be too frightening here, but if we know that this shorter term workforce is coming, we got to think differently, right? We really got to think differently about what does onboarding look like? What does training and development look like? What does recruiting look like if we're going to a shorter term workforce where we're going to have more folks do that? So there we go. Ed said, I don't hire people, I adopt them. I love that because that's totally a sense of belonging, right? Into the family. Lots of communications with new hires. Yes. That is fantastic. Okay. Awesome. So what I want to talk about now, let's go into some breakout rooms here. And I would like for you all to take a few minutes chatting with each other about right now, what is working. Before I tell you some tips and tricks that we've gathered and are seeing, particularly, once the pandemic hit, that kind of changed all of our strategies. But I want to know for you all, what is something that you implemented that either helped with the onboarding process, the getting more applications, has really helped keep some people when you thought they might walk away. And we're going to send you out into small groups, into breakout sessions, so you all can talk to each other and gather thoughts. I know many of you don't know each other, so I've allowed, a minute or two for you to do quick introductions of who you are, and then I'll give you about 5 minutes to just share some top things that come top of mind. So we'll give you about 7 minutes to go into these breakout rooms, and all you have to do is Jess is going to open those up whenever you're ready, and you will just click the join button. All right. So click the join button and we'll call you back in 7 minutes. Here we go. Yay. We got some more folks on video. Hey, hello. All right. See, what happens is when you go in a small group, then they turn their videos on. It's less dangerous, right? It's like less scary is what I was thinking. So, it's too funny. It happens every time. Okay. Awesome. I think we're just getting the rest of our group back here. They're coming in slowly but surely. I think we got everybody. Excellent. Oh, yes, I saw you, Devin. He said I tricked him. I did see his shining face for just a moment. There he is. There you go. Awesome. All right. So who wants to share? I'd love for you to just unmute and share one of the great things that either you told the group or that you learned from the group. What are some things you've implemented that have brought in new applicants or helped retain folks during all this craziness for the last year? So don't be shy. I will call on you. Hey, Sandy. How you doing? Awesome. All right.
Hi. So I'll share in our small group, Roshni and I both were saying that we have employee-centric cultures, which means we have some pretty soft policies on things like tardies and attendance. And your greatest strength is your greatest weakness. So it does make the job of HR just a little bit harder sometimes, but we really try to come from care and concern before we make assumptions. And so if you have a pattern of tardies or attendance, we really try to pause and is everything going okay at home? Is there something we can help with? And so we try not to jump to a punitive conversation before understanding if there's a way we may need to help.
Absolutely. And this year more than ever, thank you for sharing, Holly. This year more than ever, we really have to understand our employees' situations because it is very different. Both Jess and I have small children, and hello, school has been in and out and in and out over here on the Indiana side. And of course, in Louisville, they have not gone back at all in Jefferson County since March. So we have real situations going on for folks. And as she said, it does make HR's job, a little more difficult when things aren't so clear cut. But it is a great way to retain people, is to listen to what's going on and accommodate as best you can, right? So, and when you've got that built into the culture where there's trust around that, there's transparency, there's openness and things like that, it can work beautifully, but it takes time to get there. So yeah, thanks for sharing. All right, who else has a tip or trick, something specific from this year that you implemented or tried that?
Hi, Kara. This
Yeah.
is Jamie Johnson. In October, we implemented a new hire employee meeting. We have them every other week, and there's always a topic that we talk to them about. So last week it was safety, and everybody goes around the room and we tell them, this topic is safety. Tell us something that you see that we're doing really well and that makes you feel safe. And maybe it's something that we do here that your last job didn't do or whatever. And then also tell us something that you see as an opportunity that we could do even better. We're getting a lot of good feedback that way. Most of our employees are saying that we are already being very safe and they can't think of anything, but they're all very excited that we're asking them, that we value what they have to say.
Yes.
So that's gone really well. We've had about an 80% retention of our new hires since October. So that's
That is such good news. That's fantastic. And what a great strategy, because people want to be heard. And sometimes a fresh pair of eyes coming in, while some folks will see that as, oh, they're the new hires. They need to pay their dues and earn their stripes before they're heard around here. It's quite the opposite. They have a fresh pair of eyes and can tell you where some of the gaps are that the people who've been there forever just don't see anymore, or they just walk right over that gap and just keep moving because they know that gap's there and aren't going to do anything about it, right? Oh, Holly added stay interviews. Yes, I'm a big fan of stay interviews. And as you all know, you will get a copy of Staying Power before we go. I'll tell you how to get your copy of Staying Power. And we talk about stay interviews in there as well. And magnetvault.com has a downloadable tool of how to start stay interviews and how to use those. So yes, huge.
I forgot to mention that our plant manager and our ops manager also come to this. So it's not just HR.
Oh,
So one is a way for them to learn all the new employees, but two, it shows the commitment, all the way to the top of management that they want to know what our new hires are saying.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Fantastic. That makes it even better that they get access to those senior leaders and start building that connection with those folks as well. That's awesome. If you guys have more, I'd love to hear what those are. You can just type them in the chat bar, or anytime from this day forward, you have permission to email, text, or call me and tell me what you learned and what worked and what didn't, right? I also like to know that to help steer our clients and partners in the right direction. So I wanted to share with you, we have an HR group that we meet with several of our clients regularly, as well as just hearing from people like you of what's working, what's not. And a few really cool things that have been implemented. I wanted to just share a few of these that are pretty COVID specific and pretty unique, that maybe they weren't just doing those things beforehand. Because man, I've been teaching about stay interviews and I've been teaching about culture and management training, way before the pandemic hit. So here's a couple unique ones that you may not have heard of. So one of our groups created a COVID sucks box. And it's like a suggestion box, but it's very specific to letting people vent about it, letting people give suggestions about fixing something they want to be heard. It's really just a throwback to an old suggestion box, but bringing it out for a very specific use and a very specific time frame too. That this is while we're in this difficult spot. And this particular HR leader, she said, you know, a lot of people were putting things in there like, life is already tough enough. Can we please get a coffee maker that works? You know, and just little things like that. She said she went and got a new coffee maker the next day because she didn't realize that that coffee maker in that break room wasn't working. And so was able to fix just a little stressor. And this one actually came from, in particular, a healthcare worker and a healthcare organization. So you can imagine, I mean, we've all been super stressed. And then we've got the healthcare workers in a life or death situation with folks. And they're like, come on, can I just get a better cup of coffee? You know, and that would really change their break time at least. Okay. So another one is, if you haven't done these lately, or especially in the last 12 months, I would encourage you to put together a staff workforce or start to do some focus groups. And similar to, I think it was Jamie that was saying, you know, we actually talk to them every other week or whatever that schedule is. That's another version of this. It's let's schedule time to bring folks together, whether you're doing that with new hires or just all staff, and make sure that your senior leadership guys, that they don't get too disconnected from the front line. Because of course everybody's busy, but if this group making the decisions and updating policies doesn't understand the reality for the front line, what they're dealing with every day at work and outside of work, you can become more disconnected, and that's a surefire way to cause more turnover. Okay, if they feel disconnected. Okay, then all right. So there's a great app called Headspace, and there's other ones as well. There's free ones, but this app I had recommended to me by multiple clients. This is about meditation and calmness and resilience and you know, stress relief and things like that. They actually have, apparently what they told me is they have company subscriptions. So then you can have your employees put this app or a similar kind of stress relief meditation type app on their phones. And it does breathing exercises. It helps them with sleep at night, you know, to go to sleep faster and things like that. So that's been something a lot of folks I know have used throughout this year of unbelievable stress on top of stress on top of stress. Okay. Another client has those computer screens all around the building. And they always rotate through with like, welcome the new hires, and here's communication about, you know, a safety change or something like that. And they started to go back and find pictures of their staff without masks on, or take pictures of their staff without masks on. You know, they'd let them take it off for a moment and smile from far away, take the picture, put it back on. And they started putting those pictures, they called them smile videos, up on the screen, because they realized, especially as long as it's been, some folks have not seen another person smile in a long time, and or they haven't seen their friend's face that they work with every day for a long time, that type of thing. So I thought that was really cool. There we go. We actually sent a mask to everyone with a Tootsie Pop saying COVID sucks, but you're awesome. I love that, Kim. Thanks for sharing. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Then I have heard, you know, on the compensation side, there's certainly a lot of competition going on for folks. And one of our clients did have some luck when they chose to double their referral bonuses if applications dropped to a certain level, because they had to get more folks in. So they would say, you know, if we drop below this level of staffing, then they would double those bonuses and try to incentivize folks more. So there's one idea on the compensation side. And then also, honestly, I cannot tell you how often it has come up this year, similar to the Headspace app, of just everybody being stressed and needing resilience tools. In our resilience classes that we teach, I've learned all about from my other trainers, all about the importance of sleep and water, that our bodies really, really need more sleep and more water in most cases. So just a simple thing like that, a little campaign reminder, passing out more bottles of water at certain times and things like that, those can really make a pretty big difference. So was this helpful? Thumbs up if you got something out of it, either those that the other group shared or something here. Okay, good. That's kind of like a little smorgasbord so far of just some little very, like I said, kind of COVID relevant things that I'm seeing groups do right now, especially HR leaders as well. So we specifically wanted to talk a little bit today about the new hire experience. So I wanted to focus on that for a few minutes because we know the new hires are the flight risk. We are dealing with a ton of new hires right now as we are short-staffed and trying to get back up to where we need to be. So I wanted to make sure that you've got a few really good questions to ask for your next executive meeting or as you're going into more planning for this year. So first things first, is your day one welcoming? And I'm not just talking about the HR kind, okay? If you are in HR, that's great. Make sure that the day one, when they first arrive at the organization, that's great and that it doesn't suck, okay? We don't want like bad e-learning and write your address 18 times, right? We're going to work out all those kinks and make that better. But I'm also talking about the day one on the job. So when they get over to their manager or supervisor, what does that day one look like? And are we absolutely certain that there are no supervisors out there going, oh, I totally forgot you're starting today. Yeah, what am I going to do with you today? Because I am really busy. We cannot let that happen. So making sure that, the onboarding at the corporate level or the home office or, the HR level, that's really solid and great, but also what does it look like when they're handed off to their manager and supervisor? Really, really important to kind of go audit that and make sure it's going well. Okay. Yes. And Ed said it starts before day one. Yeah, especially for HR. And if you can get the supervisor involved before day one to send them a nice text, can't wait to see you Monday, or, let me know if you have any questions, that stuff is absolutely great. Making sure this, I totally get it, friends. A lot of this stuff is easier said than done, or I'm just so busy dealing with all of this understaffing that I don't have time to, go fix the bigger picture and whatnot. But there are some things that we do that kind of shoots us in the foot. And then we got to do what we're doing, limping around. So one of those things is if you have streamlined your onboarding down so tight to where it's just compliance, it is just, I need these people on the floor and I need them on the floor now. Check the box, check the box, check the box, done. All right, go, go, go. If that's what you've done, if you just kept pulling back and pulling back and pulling back, it's likely turned against you at this point. Because if we don't talk about who we are and what matters and why we do what we do, I've got one manufacturing client that the people on the line didn't necessarily know how their job impacted the later use of those items. So like a component part, for example, if they're just making a small component part that's going to go in something later, then they never see it after it leaves their hands. And at their orientation, they decided to talk about all the uses of their products out on the streets and out in healthcare. And for example, one of the products that they make, it goes in pacemakers. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? Even if you're on the line and you never seen a pacemaker before, but you're making things, and then to know that this right here could save a life, I better get it right. I better have high quality because this is going in a pacemaker. Making sure that we're connecting that during the orientation is really, really, really cool. All right, we said logoed welcome box, logoed items in it. Yes, yes, yes. Make them feel a part of the family for sure. Then the workers will wear their shirt on the first day if they've already got it. Yes, absolutely. Okay, good times. The other one here is, how often are you checking in with the new hires? You know, Jamie said they meet regularly and are asking them, what do you see? And how could we make this better? And, you know, things like that. That's fantastic. But a lot of times once the recruiter, you know, gets them over to the onboarding process, they don't talk to them again. They don't check in on them. And I highly recommend that your recruiters check in with folks, because it may just be not the right fit on that certain team, but you could move them elsewhere, right? If that's why they're going to quit. Or maybe the schedule isn't working and they can kind of talk to some folks. Of course, the supervisors should be heavily involved in those conversations, but sometimes we haven't given those supervisors the tools, right, to communicate in the most effective way. So in that case, then you want to get the recruiters or HR kind of involved and checking in regularly to keep in touch with folks as well. So in their first email, in their inbox with a welcome graphic, that's awesome. So yeah, as soon as you set up their emails, send them a nice welcome to the team message, even before they arrive, because you're exactly right, Ed. That's going to be the first email when they log in on their account. It'll be right there. That's really cool. All right, so I've got a little activity for us to do as a group here. So get your fingers ready for the chat bar. And I've got 3 new staffers coming in on Monday. All right, 3 new folks. We've got Kevin, we've got Bob, and we've got Jill. But I need to give you a little bit of information because one size no longer fits all. Did you hear that? One size no longer fits all. So with these 3 new hires coming in on Monday, I cannot have, if I want to be successful, the exact same checklist and plan for these folks because they're very different people. So let me tell you a little bit about them, and then I'm going to get your thoughts on what kind of adjustments we might be able to make this the best onboarding and orientation for these folks possible. All right. So first, Kevin's a Gen Xer in his 40s. He's only worked in non-food related manufacturing, but he's coming into a food related manufacturing setting, right? Different rules, different expectations. And he's a father of a blended family that has 5 kiddos on 2 different schedules, right? He and his wife's schedules with the kids are very different. So we see that all the time today, don't we? Okay, then we've got Bob. Now, Bob's a boomer in his 60s. He retired with a pension, but then he got bored. So he's coming back because, you know, you had a now hiring sign up and he's like, yeah, I'll go do a little bit of that. He's got grown children, but he's got grandchildren, some that are local and some that are out of town. Okay. And then we've got Jill. Now, Jill is a millennial in her late 20s. She doesn't have any kids. She's taking some local college classes and she's brand new to manufacturing. So she's never been on a manufacturing floor as an employee before. All right. So if you would type some ideas in the chat, or you're welcome to unmute if you prefer to just say it out loud. But what are some adjustments or improvements that we could do for the onboarding to enhance their new hire experience? Okay, how do we make some adjustments? It doesn't have to be completely customized per person, but what are some of the tweaks that we might need to make, or additional resources we might want to give them and things like that? So awesome. Okay, so I'm going to give you a second to type up some answers here. Oh, stuffed animals. That's fun, Audrey. I do like that idea. Okay. Acknowledge Bob's skill set from the start. Okay. He's certainly going to be helpful for others who may not have as much tenure and things. Okay. Perhaps have Jill shadow a tenured employee. Yeah, some shadowing would probably be much more valuable to Jill than it would be for Kevin and Bob, right? Because they've been in this environment and they're going to go, yeah, okay, just show me how to do the job or work the machine, or, you know, those kind of things. Kevin needs a focus on benefits and paid time off when onboarding for sure, because he's got big family and may need a lot of time off for doctor's appointments and whatnot. Bob might like opportunities to mentor younger folks. Yeah, he might. and he might not, right? Let's not make any assumptions with any of these folks. A lot of it is we've got to kind of check in and say, hey, you've got so much experience. Is mentoring something that would be of interest to you, right? That would be a great conversation. Okay. And then here we go. Needs a good career path to keep her engaged. I think that's Jill. Yeah, Jill. And maybe a work buddy. That's a great idea too. I've seen for years folks that have kind of a work buddy for every new hire, and that way they can ask silly questions without feeling silly, if they forget where something is or that kind of thing. Oh yeah, we got that. So awesome. Okay, so you guys picked up on this. Now, this is not rocket science, but I bring this up as an activity and a discussion here because we're busy. We are so busy that sometimes we like I said, we just slash that orientation and onboarding because I just need them on the floor and I just need them to have the required training and get them out there. But we really need to make sure that we're blocking some time in our calendar to think ahead and to think about, okay, what's working, what's not. All right. We, of course, are starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel with COVID as we start to get vaccinations in arms and things like that, right? Where a lot of folks are hopeful that we're going to see some transitions over the next 6 months, at least, in our world and the capabilities. What can we get together? Can we not? Do we still need PPE, right? There's all this stuff. But if we just keep doing what we're doing with head down, just trying to stay afloat, we'll wake up in 6 or 12 months and potentially be behind on several things or not where we wanted, or we'll realize that we sliced and diced everything down so tight that it's really hard to bring some of that stuff back. Okay. So we got to make sure that you're still building in some time here and there, either by yourself or with your leadership team to think about those new things. There we go. Jamie said, I like to set an agenda for at least the first 3 days so they know what's going to happen. Yeah, that's another great tip for onboarding. So let me mention a few other areas. And these, like I said, these are in the Staying Power book. Our framework around retention is called MAGNET. So it is management effectiveness, attraction and recruiting tips, the guidance upon entry, that's the onboarding stuff we just talked about. New staffing models addresses advancement opportunities if there's no promotion available. How do we adjust our scheduling and our staffing in order to accommodate more of the pool of candidates, right? How do we accommodate for student schedules and part-timers and things like that, all right? So really important to relook at those staffing models as well. Empowered champions is the part where we identify who owns the retention conversation and initiatives. And that we really need to have a set person or small group that really moves all of this forward. In fact, in the vault, I have a sample job description for a retention specialist. So you can grab that and make it your own and work toward getting some more resources to focus on retention. The last one, of course, is trust through transparency. And even though we didn't have time to go through all of these today, the good thing is I've got a webinar on all of those. So if you go to magnetwebinars.com, there is a whole list of those 6 topics. They're, I think, 20 to 30 minutes each, totally free to you. These are just a deeper dive of those 6 strategies that are on there. Okay. So a copy of the slides. I am definitely going to send you actually into the Magnet Vault. Roshni, there are the slides that are in there. Okay. So yeah, it's like the most popular slides. It may not be this exact slide deck, but if you're missing anything from there, just holler at me and I'll get it to you. Okay, awesome. So there's another free resource for you at magnetwebinars.com if you need to dive into any of these particular topics. The one that I'll tell you, most of our organizations that we work with, all of the companies that we do training for, it always comes to the top of the list is, I know I need to make my managers and supervisors better. Bar none, that is the number one answer. They know that they get the biggest bang for their buck if they make the supervisors and managers better in their roles. And if they do that, then they're going to see turnover go down. So while we cut training and development, even years before the pandemic, we were cutting training and development. And then, of course, this past year, it all went on the back burner. Make sure, I understand people don't have time and money for training at this moment in a lot of cases, but make sure, especially if you're in HR, that you have a plan for bringing it back, my friends. Do not let your senior leadership team cut it from their budget forever. If it got cut going into 2020, that's fine, but you set a reminder on your calendar to get it back in the 2022 budget. You know, if it got cut in 2020 for 2021, make sure that you have that. Because it's really critical that you get your managers the tools and resources that they need, okay? Also, another piece of ammo for you is to know the numbers. So start crunching the numbers if you haven't already. Frontline workers, we could easily calculate 5 to 10 grand in losses for a frontline worker walking out the door. For office and management roles, easily 15 to 25,000. And a lot of these numbers, especially the front line, it's the overtime. It's the temp agencies that we're using, not just the recruiting costs and the job postings and training costs that are pretty easy to measure. Sometimes it's the less tangible stuff, even like a learning curve or quality deficiencies and things like that. Okay. So also this, it says in the vault here because there's a cost of turnover worksheet also in the vault. And that gives you a whole list of things that should be calculated when you're trying to figure out the true cost of turnover and have that conversation with executives, because that usually gets their attention. Okay. Awesome. All right. So I'd love to know, I'm just going to wrap up with a few things here. Of course, share with you how to get the book and all of that fun stuff. But before we go, I wanted to hear from you on what projections do you all have regarding staffing in particular for the next 3 to 6 months? If you would just type your thoughts in the chat, I'm really interested in capturing what's going on in your head right now, because that's all it is projections, right? It doesn't have to be right or wrong, but do you think staffing is going to get easier? And if so, why? Is it because of the vaccine? Do you think it's going to get harder because of the unemployment stimulus, for example? You know, we've got a lot of stuff going on with the administration change, stimulus possibilities, the vaccine, you know, all of those things are still kind of a wait and see on some of them. So there we go. Holly says, we will likely have no overall add in headcount this year, thanks to COVID. This is the year of getting back to where we were. Yes, ending furloughs. Absolutely. I mean, that's a huge win. I need 15 more people to be fully staffed. Okay. Thinks it's going to get harder for healthcare. It's progressively become more challenging every month. Yeah, you know, we do a ton with healthcare, and Ray, what we're seeing also at certain levels, there's an exodus of people leaving healthcare because they don't want to be on the front line. So I'll be really curious to see over the next year what that looks like. However, there's some programs that are having a flood of applications of new students into nursing, or epidemiology, for example, is really getting a whole lot of applications in those university programs. So I'll be interested to see what the short-term and long-term impacts on the healthcare staffing looks in particular. So yeah, great question. Devin, hiring another team member, not expecting losses, but they're in a small office. Yes, that's good. Stimulus plus tax returns make the next 8 weeks tough, right? So this is a really interesting thing for us here in Southern Indiana is, of course, California. I have friends in California and clients out there. They're still shut down for the most part. And yet Indiana and Kentucky, we're pretty much open, you know. And so for the government to put in place those extensions on the unemployment and whatnot, you know, I don't care your political views. That's not the conversation I'm having here, but it is a whole different story for California employers versus Southern Indiana, right? Because when they make a widespread decision like that, and we're going, wait, no, we don't want people sitting at home. We need them to come to work, you know? that type of thing. It absolutely plays in on all of this. So, yep, trying to staff up to head count. Folks on unemployment is, yep, absolutely. Okay. I really appreciate you guys sharing all of this, because this is how we capture, kind of like I said, what's going on in your minds and different industries as well. So how will I keep my retention strategies while still hiring even more people and we're surging? Yes. Jamie, I'm with you. Just know that I'm sending good vibes every day. Sending good vibes, because that is a tough spot to be in, my friend. And I will say, for those of you who are saying like, I just can't keep this up and I can't do this stuff I know I need to do because of the recruiting and that revolving door, take the numbers to the executives if you haven't yet and say, I have got to have another pair of hands in the next, few weeks in order to get through the next 6, 8, 12 months. And if you can kind of make your case, my friends, don't just complain. And Jamie, I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I'm just giving a very specific strategy for everyone here. Don't just complain about it. Go to them with a case and say, I need this role, which is going to have this much impact on our workload, or, that kind of thing. And we'll be able to implement these things if I have an extra pair of hands, which will help us get to where we need to be. Okay. So have a case for that for sure. All right. Nobody seems to want to work right now. Yeah, we do have some of that. And of course, that's impacted by the unemployment stuff. Okay. A lot of you on the same page there. Awesome. I'm going to read through, there's a lot of those, so I'll read through those when we get done. There we go. Excellent. I just saved all of that so I can read them when we're finished. Happy to connect with you guys, by the way, on LinkedIn or email if you want to discuss any of those things. But before we go, couple quick things here. The first is I'm really excited to just be in the conversations right now. We have potential opportunity to do some training and development within the River Ridge community. And I know not everybody on this call today is within River Ridge, but any programs that we decide to do, we are looking at partnering with all kinds of local groups around the area, and would certainly extend those opportunities out to all employers in the Clark, Floyd, maybe Scott County. I don't know what that looks like. But today, what we would like to ask you, if you would please help us out as we try to figure out what are the needs, not just in River Ridge, but in our whole community. And how could we, if we put together some training programs in the River Ridge area, how could that help your organization? How could that get something off your plate and really bring a new resource to you? So if you would, Jess, can you put the link to that survey here? So here's how you get your free book of Staying Power. And you're going to get an actual copy mailed to you, the full thing, okay, not just digital or whatnot. So if you would please fill out this survey and let us know, doesn't matter whether you're in River Ridge or not, but we are looking for feedback on how we could help each of the businesses in town to get the managers and supervisors in particular where they need to be. Okay, we've got to get folks into more development programs, more training programs. And we understand some of you guys are really large and you can do all your own stuff and you've got that covered. And others of you are smaller and just don't have the resources to do a whole cohort, for example, of the 24 managers in our workforce boot camp, and can't do that alone. But if we can offer that program at River Ridge and have companies send a handful of managers, we could pool our resources and get you what you need at very, very reasonable, pricing. In fact, if we work together, we're looking at going after some grant dollars. Our company's been able to get grants for several clients to help cover the retention boot camp and other training programs because there's money out there to help with skills and staffing. Okay, so excellent. There we go. And then as soon as we're done, Susan said, don't forget if you need the HR credits, that she'll put that up as soon as I'm finished here. And magnetvault.com, we mentioned that a few times. What I wanted to leave you guys with was one story. Okay. Recently, I had a manager tell me about them all going off-site. Okay, now this was more of a service company where most people worked behind a desk, but they sent their whole office home in March. And in the fall, they decided we're going to come back to work. Okay, we are in a place where we're allowed to do that and we feel it's safe and we've put in precautions and we're going to come back to work. And when this manager told all of the workers about it, who he had really changed his style as people went home. He had been checking in with everyone, make sure everyone's good. Do you need anything? Do you have a good headset? You know, all of those things, checking in on projects. Do you need anything? Do you have everything you need? Where are you on that? What's the status, right? Throughout the last, 10 months had been doing that. And so when he told the workers, we're going to be coming back in the office, does anybody have questions, concerns? What are your thoughts? One of his staff members said, are you still going to check on me if I come back? Because when that worker worked in the office before the pandemic, that manager didn't have time for his workers. He was so busy and always behind his desk. And so we need to make sure that our people don't ever feel that way, whether you're in manufacturing, healthcare, sitting behind a desk, whatever your workforce looks like, we've got to stay connected to them. We've got to make sure that we are building appropriate workloads and appropriate expectations over time. I know today is impossible. It's impossible, but we're looking out. What does the next 6, 12, 18 months look like for us? And we have to make that case. All right. So I'm here to help you. I'm local, right? I love working with clients around the country, but y'all are my favorite. These are my friends, my colleagues, my peers. So it has been an absolute honor to work with you guys today on all of this stuff, even leading up to it. Had several calls with a few of you beforehand, and I'm right around the corner. So if you want to do a Zoom call or when things lighten up a little bit, maybe coffee sometime soon, I'd love to get in touch with each one of you and just chat and learn what you've got going on. So really, really appreciate your time today. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to unshare so that she can put up the screen here right at 1:30. There we go. That's got the
Good job.
numbers you need. So if you have any questions, you can unmute. I can stick around for a few more minutes, but I also know some of you have to go. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for your time. And Susan, for your invitation.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming, Kara. We've learned so much. It was a great presentation and probably the most interactive presentation that we have had. So thank you for that. I know everybody enjoyed it and hung around to the end, which is great. So please take advantage of those resources that Kara gave us and go to that survey, because the training learning consortium that may happen in River Ridge is important, and we want your all's feedback. So please go to that link, and then she'll send you that book. Anybody have any questions for Kara? I've never seen you all so chatty, so I'm really proud of you all.
It's great seeing so many friends on this call too. So it's been a while. Thanks so much, everybody.
All right. Well, till next time. Thank you, guys.
All right,
And, we did record this, so if you have anybody that you think wants to see it, just let me know and I'll send you the recording.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kara. And I'll send you the recording, Kara, as well, in case you want it. Or you probably have it, right?
Nope, we gotta.